I guess we are live. Uh, Welcome everyone to Wealth Tippet Stories. And my name is Araceli. I'm a transition wealth advisor. And I specialize in working with single professional women to rearrange their finances so they can get ahead faster. But one of the things that I discuss here, and the reason that I'm a transition wealth advisor, is that there's a lot of things that we go in life that cannot take us out of the path that we were supposed to be in. And what best to tell you a real story, right? And today I have a friend of mine, a referral partner, a colleague. Her name is Cherryl Small. She's an entrepreneur and currently she is a mortgage agent. And she is a fantastic lady, and she's going to tell you her story, how she transitioned into what she's doing today, and some of the bumps that she's gone through in her life. I'm hoping you can be inspired to your own life because everybody has something that they have gone through and their finances have been affected. Cheryl, can you tell us more about yourself?
Hi, thank you, Araceli, for having me today. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. As Araceli mentioned, I'm Cheryl Small. I'm currently a mortgage agent. I have had other jobs along the way. Currently, I am a mortgage agent working for Matrix Mortgage Global. In the GTA area, we are a full service brokerage. And I'm very excited to do that job. I love what I do and I enjoy doing that every day. Um, but I've had many jobs along the way
So
as
tell me, Cheryl,
agent.
so what has made the decisions that you've taken to do different jobs, right? Just give us a little bit of a story. How do you transition into this job? What did you do before? And how it affected your finances? What was this like the point that of decision that you took?
Okay, yes, absolutely. So um, I had worked for Bell Canada for many years, over 20 years. I worked for Bell Canada. My husband also worked in the corporate world in the IT field. And we always kept saying, we weren't happy with what we were doing. I wanted to leave Bell Canada. And finally, in 2002, I decided that was it. I wasn't going to work for Bell anymore. And interestingly enough, at the same time, further along in that year, my husband, he got packaged out of the job that he was in. So we took that opportunity to start looking at different businesses that we wanted to do. We always wanted to do a business. And I should say, while we were working in corporate, we had started our first business. It was a business where we sold artwork. So we already had a little bit of the bug for being an entrepreneur. Then when we both left our jobs, we bought a cafe at that time in downtown Toronto. We ran that cafe with family members. And then after that, it was a series of businesses that we bought or we started. And we did very well for the longest while. We were very successful in the businesses that we ran and what we were doing. It made a very good living for our family. We were doing very well. And then fast forward, we got to about 2008. We had been living a beautiful life, beautiful home. Kids had everything they needed. We were comfortable. And then around 2008, when the economy tanked, we had at that time we had a number of businesses that we had started or we transitioned out of, and we got into a new business. But at that time, we were in real estate, and we also were investors in a ready chill food business. At that time, everything when the economy sort of tanked, our business, it was a domino effect. Everything started to sort of fall apart, and in a short time, everything was gone. The businesses had to fold, production stopped, we lost everything. And I had to think of what I was going to do. So I had to pivot. My husband had to pivot. I had to pivot. I was introduced to mortgages by family members. I have a number of family members who are currently in the mortgage industry. So they introduced me to mortgages. So I've always been hearing about the mortgage industry, but at that time I didn't go into mortgages right then and there. I decided I would go back to school, and I studied holistic nutrition. And I did that for many years, and I loved it. I was very happy with what I was doing. But again, it wasn't giving me the income that I wanted. So at that time, I decided, you know what? It's time for me to pivot again, and I would try something new. And that's when I got into the mortgage industry. And I have been in the mortgage industry ever since, very successfully. My husband was able to transition into another industry that he loved. He's currently working with two other partners in a sustainability company, and he's doing very well for himself. But it took us time to sort of pivot, figure out what we were doing, and get back into something else that we wanted to do.
Yeah. So one of the things that I see here is that a lot of people, they sometimes want to go into their own business, but they're afraid that they're going to fail. And some people actually do. But what happens here is that you have to have resilience to go back and pick yourself up. And I said, okay, if this didn't work, what else can I do to continue on my life
Absolutely.
and be of service to people, right? And this is something that I really admire about Cheryl, that so many things that you have done, and you have been coming up on top and be successful,
Yeah.
which is basically what we want to do. If you have that bug that Cheryl had to go into business, I can tell you it is worth it. I have a similar story because I worked for corporate for many years. And the same, I was very afraid that I was not going to be able to make it, that I didn't know at that time. I was single and just having one income coming into the house. Luckily, I had an investment property that was giving me some cash flow, and that helped quite a bit. So I really do appreciate you sharing this story with us. Now, tell me, what was the biggest thing that happened? Like, this did affect your finances when you went down. How did you cope with it? How was your relationship at home? Tell us more about that.
Okay, that's a big one. I can tell you this much. We had two young children. So we had to think about not only about ourselves, but we had to think about our children, our family.
Yeah.
How would we survive? How can we pick ourselves up? Now, my husband is very much a go-getter, A-type personality. He was saying, you know what? Failure is not an option. We tried something, it didn't work. We have to pick ourselves up. We find something else to do. We just keep going. We're not going to bury our heads in the sand. We're not
Yeah.
going to try. We're not going to have a pity party. We've got to figure out how we're going to survive. So we had to find a way to pivot, and it wasn't easy. It was very difficult on our marriage. There were many, many tough days. We had to, at the time, we did have a little bit of counsel. We were attending a church at the time, and we had counsel with the pastor there. I was angry. I was feeling ashamed. I was embarrassed. I was lost. I was thinking, how would we make it? How are we going to give up all the things that we are used to having? And how are we going to pull back and cut back so that we can build again? We had to make many sacrifices so that my husband can we can get enough money to rebuild a new business, because that took money. So we had to find ways that we could cut back, and it really did put a pressure on our marriage. It put a pressure on us with our children, our lifestyle. We were living maybe a lifestyle up here, and then we had to find a way to cut back many ways to live, a more frugal lifestyle, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And that was difficult. It was difficult for my children because when they were used to having everything that they wanted, they were used to being involved in gymnastics and dance and piano and, going everywhere they wanted to. They would ask for something, we would be able to provide that for them. Um, it wasn't that we were spoiling them, but they could get the things
Yeah.
that they needed. We were just comfortable. And so when we had to cut back and we had to make those changes, it was very, very difficult. And I think, to be honest, if I'm to be honest with everybody, it probably took a very big toll on our marriage, and maybe we could have been over a long time ago, but we decided to stick through it. And my husband said, you know what? Failure is not an option. Failure is not an option. Many people um, have things in their life that go against them, but you have to pick yourself up. You have to keep going. You have to find that strength deep down to keep going.
I love what you're saying there, Cheryl, because that is one of the things that I've seen sometimes people, they just go into a pity party and they just don't want to get out of it. And the fact is that this happens to all of us in many different ways and at many different levels, right?
Absolutely.
And it is kind of like your attitude. I love the attitude that you guys took and said, no, yes, this happened. Well, that's what life is. And for some of us, it's being similar, right?
Yeah.
Because I have to go through myself some of the similar things to go downsize, and then I went from a homeowner to a renter before I could get back into real estate. And all of those things take a toll on you because you're already used to certain type of life, right? And
Absolutely.
going down, I think it just feels that you're not doing well, that you were supposed to be at a certain level. And then we start comparing ourselves with other people.
And that's, you don't want to do that,
Yeah,
because
no.
when I was comparing myself to other people, and I did, I felt embarrassed. I was ashamed.
Yeah.
I was hiding. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to meet with my friends anymore. I couldn't do some of the things that I wanted to do that I was doing before. I couldn't, because I had to, we were trying to build a new life, trying
Mm-hmm.
to pay off debt, trying to save money for a new business. We had to be frugal. We could not be as free with our money as we were before. So it was a total shift.
Oh, absolutely. So, Cheryl, if somebody is thinking about going into business for themselves, what kind of advice would you say to them?
Oh gosh, I would definitely say, first of all, find something that's your passion. Find something that's your passion, that's your purpose, that you really love, you're going to enjoy doing. Also, find something that um, do your due diligence. Make sure that you know exactly what it entails to run this business, to operate this business, all the financial aspects of it. Because I think in retrospect, not that we didn't do that, we did do that, because all the businesses that we were involved in, we didn't start all of them. Sometimes we were an investor, sometimes we started. Other businesses we purchased. But I think if we had done a little bit more due diligence, if we had made sure some of the things that we found out after, we should have done a little bit more work to find out a little bit more of what we were
Mhm.
getting into. Make sure that you have enough money in place for emergencies. When we were involved in buying and selling real estate, we had amassed so many properties at the same time, and what had happened was we were not able to turn them over fast enough. Eventually, it was like a domino effect, and we could not keep up with it. We had people in place that were skilled in what they were doing, but the money was running out too quickly. So I think definitely you also need to take your time. Don't try to rush. Don't do too much too fast. I think those are some of the things that we experienced. We were doing too much too fast, had our hands in too many things. We were investing, we were buying businesses, we were investing in other people's businesses. And I think we were just spreading ourselves too thin. So I think if you're passionate about what you're doing, you've done your due diligence, you know that there's a market for what it is that you want to do, you make sure you have enough funding in place to carry you, because there will be ups and downs, there will be cycles. Um, and you have to be prepared for that. I think you
Yeah,
have to be prepared
that
for
is actually a fantastic advice. And that is one of the things when I work with my clients, even though they're not in business, I do have business owners and also just individuals that work for a company, but to have an emergency fund. that is one of the very first things that I work with people to put aside, because take a look at what happened last year with COVID. Many people were downsized, many people had to work from home. Maybe they weren't able to make the same amount of money. Things that happened to you in 2008, which it was very similar to what is happening right now with the pandemic, right? And everybody gets affected in different ways. So make sure that, it is very good advice, Cheryl, to go slower. Sometimes slow wins the race, but you have
Steady.
a little bit more money put aside in the case that something like this happens, right? Instead of trying to go ahead too quickly. Oh, this is fantastic. So I love it. So out of what you're doing right now, tell us what you specialize on something here on the mortgage side, right?
The brokerage that I'm currently working for, our specialty is private lending, and we are also specializing in working with people with bruised credit. So I'm a credit specialist. I help people to build their credit back again. I'm also looking at helping people who are trying to get into the market, helping them to get themselves ready for buying a property if they're not ready at that time. But our brokerage has a very strong with private lending and very strong with working with people with bruised credit and people who are business for self. Because
Yeah,
I find that usually when you're in business for yourself, it's difficult to get funding from the big banks.
absolutely. So this is something that actually is in great need right now, because if people are being downsized, or your income has been affected in some way, or you are a business owner, you require somebody that can help you in the private lending area.
Mhm.
So no, please contact Cheryl if you have anything like that, and even if you are thinking about buying a property, but you're not sure if you're ready for it. It just takes a few minutes to contact Cheryl. She'll guide you on what you need, and of course, you also need some help to do your financial planning for the future. Even if you want to know what kind of financial position you're in, please contact me and I'll be happy to walk you through and let you know if you're ready to go to talk to Cheryl and get pre-approved if that's what is required.
Yes,
Well,
yeah.
thank you so much, Cheryl. I do appreciate you coming and sharing this story, because I can tell people all the stories, but I think it has more impact when it comes directly from the person that had experienced it. And the same, my hope is to inspire people to see that there is a way out, no matter what circumstances, what things have happened in your life. There is always a way out, but you have to be willing to continue to work and get up and move on with your life. So that is the message here. Do you have anything else that you would like to say to the audience?
You know what? I just want to thank you so much for inviting me today. As you said, the key is we could have stayed down. It's never too late. It's never over. Don't let anyone else tell you that. Don't feel ashamed, embarrassed. There's no shame in this. I feel you learn. We've learned from that. We've learned, and we're going to grow from that. And we can only go up from here. And so don't ever let that stop you. Just get right back in the game and get back in there and do what you're passionate about. And don't let anything stop you. You can do it. Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
that's awesome. Thank you so much, Cheryl. You're such an inspiration. I'm so glad that we are friends, and I love your story. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week with another fantastic transition story.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today. It was a
Thank you,
pleasure.
Cheryl. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.